Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Hey, welcome to the show. You're back here with your host, Travis Johnson, and my fantastic on the inside and mostly on the outside, Carol. Today we have a special guest, Jessica Meuse. She is from Slapout, Alabama, which is a great name for a city, I got to tell you. She's been on the Vans Warped Tour, The Voice, American Idol. She does country music and a whole bunch of other shit. Jessica, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm a little sleepy. I'm catching up now. But yeah, well overall, I'm here. So
That's good. And we're very happy to have you here on the show. Jessica got introduced to us by Dr. Julie Ducharme, who is an amazing woman, leads amazing stuff. You can check out our interview, what Julie did a couple of months ago. But we're just really excited to have you here. And I want to know what makes you a Titan.
oh crap. I mean, I went from being an absolute nobody to working my ass off, and everything that you see, for instance, like when you Google me, I mean, I went out and got it. So I like to think that I'm kind of the underdog that shows all the other people who might be sailing on the sea that I've already been on. Hopefully I can give them some hope and let them realize that, you know, if you really set your mind to something and you want it, you just go get it, and you can.
That is a fantastic answer. And that's the same story with myself. Same story with Carol. If you are pursuing something, it's up to you. You got to do it. Get after it. Go get it every day and make that dream a reality for yourself. What was it like?
About it, that's for sure. Because I think a lot of people talk about, well, I could do this or I could do that. It's like, no, fucking go do it.
Yeah.
Stop about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, they have no follow through, but they can talk about it all day. And I see that a lot, and I've learned how to kind of discern the doers between the don't people. And I like to make sure that I just surround myself with people who are inspiring and they go out and get what they want in life, because you are your friends. And I've learned that, especially in the past couple of years.
Yeah. It's important to with who you surround yourself with, for sure, because they can contribute to your success or failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's no shit. I remember when I was hanging out with the people that, you know, would talk shit about the boss, and their whole goal was to go to the bar after work and all that shit. And I found myself talking shit about the boss and going to the bar every work. And then I wondered why I didn't have any money and why I wasn't being considered for promotion. And I was like, I wonder if it could be the things I'm doing because of the people I'm hanging around.
Yep. But once you see the pattern and you kind of stop and process it for yourself, and you're outside of yourself and you get over your ego, I feel like it releases you to pretty much do whatever you really want. And and once you see the cause and effect and you can see it further out, I feel like that helps a lot too.
Absolutely. What was the trigger for you that helped you get over your ego? Well,
I think a big thing for me was it kind of started in middle and high school. I moved around a lot. I was, for lack of a better word, a loser. I had an eating disorder because I got made fun of. I got called fat. I was awkward for a long time. I had a lot of acne, and I was always a weird kid, which now I found out is because I have Asperger syndrome. So I think pretty differently than most people. And I'm like a hyper creative person. So I just like to make stuff. I like to play video games. I drew monsters that I made up in my head. I was always into creative writing. And to the majority, which is, quote, normal people, that was weird. And that was something they didn't understand. And in hindsight, I realized that's what that was. But when you're in it, it sucks. And and I have felt like an alien for pretty much most of my life. But I also learned I'm going to prove all you bitches wrong. So So I basically fell into the only consistent thing that I had, even in all my travel, because I went to countless schools. I've lost track, going through my eating disorder, going through all adversity that I faced. And, you know, in high school, I graduated early. I was not allowed to walk with my class. I never had cap and gown. I was taken off the honor court. And that's really shitty. But I turned all of that into motivators. And so that's a perfect example of, it's not what happens to you, it's how you choose to react to it. So in this world, you have to decide, well, am I going to let this really get me down right now? And I always ask myself, is it going to matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And most of the time, it doesn't. So you pick your ass up and you get your shit together and you set your little goals to get your big goals, and you just go and get them. And so I guess I really got over myself in probably middle school, when all the bullying was at its highest, because I realized I didn't fit in, and I was alone. I was forced to be alone. I was very and have always been introspective. I asked questions, and I didn't have the, oh, I'm hot shit, I'm too good and I'm smarter than everyone else. Because no, every day I was told I was stupid. Every day I was told I was ugly. I had people tell me to kill myself. So I think I got over my ego pretty quickly.
Yeah, you have to be able to create the things that you've created. So interesting how all three of our stories line up or in parallel. They really are. There's always that point. What was that point for you, Carol, when you were like, you know what? I got to get over this ego, take control of my own shit. You remember what that point was for you?
Yeah. My divorce. Yep.
After like, how many years? 30 years? No.
What are you talking about?
How long were you married? What?
Oh, I was married for 21 years. At that point in my life, that was half my life. So, yeah. And there was I felt like a 20-year cycle where shit would go bad. And after the second 20 years, which was during the divorce, I was like, motherfucker, I want off this ride. Like, this sucks, you know? And so that's when, you know, I put things in motion too, but I did it in a weird way. And I think the commonality that I see when we speak to all these entrepreneurs is that everybody felt weird, odd. They never fit in, you know, and it seems like through that they worked it into their goals, into what motivates them, which is really interesting, because the more and more we talk to these entrepreneurs, that is the commonality, is they chose to use it as a motivator instead of anything else. Because you can end up choosing to go, well, fuck, I'm odd, you know, I don't deserve to live, and be totally down on yourself. But you can choose the other, which is a much better option, and do what we do, and we can rise above it all. Fucking like the Phoenix, man.
Fucking like the Phoenix, man. Exactly right. I love to hear it.
That's a wonderful quote.
Fucking like a Phoenix, man.
Yeah, with the comma and everything, man.
Yeah. That's definitely going on a shirt. I'm writing that down right now.
It needs to. Oh my God.
Well, you know that shirt, and I don't know if you've seen it, Jessica. It's like what is it? Underestimate me. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah. Every day of my life.
Sure. Yeah.
What was it like? What was your experience getting on, you know, pursuing one of your passions, that being creative and country music and singing and performing? Like, how did that transition into getting on things like The Voice and American Idol? Like, what was that journey for you?
So The Voice actually called me because I was going to college 18 hours a week. So the maximum I was allowed to sign up for. And I was going out to every open mic, every opportunity that I had to play, mostly in the Birmingham area, but I played in bars. I played in shitholes and like smoky little dives under overpasses. I've played every bar in the Southeast, but I did not sleep. And looking back, I really don't know how I did it, because now I'm 31 and I'm really tired all the time, but I'm still trucking, man. But I was playing out as much as I could. I got a phone call from The Voice actually while I was playing a show. I remember it was in Montgomery. My family and friends were there supporting me. And I had to call the guy back during my first break. And since I had never been to LA, I'd never been anywhere near it. And that was the first experience I ever had with something like that. And they flew me out. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to make it. This is it. This is my big break. And it should be like one of those things that Morgan Freeman is narrating. And he's like, little did she know it was not her break. And dude, I got out there. I was there for a month. I seriously thought, because I was naive. I was young. I was a dumbass. I freaking thought, coming from Slapout, that was my shot and I was going to make it and I was going to be famous. I was going to have everything I'd ever dreamed of. And then it was the blind audition day. I got all the way there and no one turns around. And Christina Aguilera, a role model that I have looked up to ever since I was a little girl, listening to her. And she's so talented and she's so beautiful. She told me that I shriek. And that killed me. And then Blake told me something was off. I don't know what it was, but something was off. And then Adam Levine told me, well, you have plenty of time to get, you're young enough. You have plenty of time to develop your talent. And then he goes, how old are you? I was like, man, you should have ordered that the other way around and asked me how old I was first. And then CeeLo just told me he was building his team and running out of spots and he was looking for something very specific, but he liked when I did whatever I did in the song. And I remember my heart absolutely broke. It felt like I was dying. I also have really bad anxiety, so I was terrified. And I'm crying and they send me to the psychologist for the show and he's like, why are you crying? I was like, why do you think I'm crying? This was my life.
You not see that shit? They destroyed me. Of course I'm crying.
Fucking
I was 21, so it's like, yay, alcohol, yay, Hollywood, yay, California. I've always dreamed of doing this, and it's like I'm living my dream, and then it just got ripped out from under me, and I was too young and naive to really understand anything else, and that was a really, really rude awakening for me. And I went back home. I went right back to school. They never showed me on the show, and at the time, I was bummed about that because I really wanted to see my audition and hear how I sounded and what they were talking about, because I didn't get to see a replay or anything. And then I went back to school. I was hustling. I went back out. I was performing every night. I did a couple like singer-songwriter competitions up in Birmingham. Basically would shut down a couple of the venues. And it was fun. Like, I love playing music and I just got back into it for that. Because I don't have the quitting bone in my body. I just can't. I don't care if it crushes me. I don't care if it broke my heart the way it did, but I can't quit. So I was working through school and I'm performing. And then I played at this one gig where this guy had dated a girl, if you can keep up with that. And she worked for American Idol. And she was scouting and he was helping her find people. And he became my friend. And he put my name in the hat. And she called me and she said, do you want to audition in Atlanta? And I said, no, not really. Because I was like, I'm not camping out at 2 a.m, being exhausted so that I can be denied and then go home. And especially because I had gotten a spot to perform at Warped Tour the day before the audition. And she goes, no, I'm not talking about that. What about 2 p.m. in the showcase group? And I said, oh, I could do that. I could do 2 p.m. because I didn't have to do the cattle call. And so I went in and I got through. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not gonna count my chickens now. I'm just gonna go with the process. And I kept getting through. And then I got through again. And then I ended up in Los Angeles and I did the Hell Week thing. And I was also full-time in college at this time. I failed like 2 or 3 classes because, and I'm very academic. Like, I ended college with a 4.0 in the semester and an overall 3.5 that I brought back up because of this one semester where my GPA was a 1.6.
Ooh.
And it was so bad. And I remember I didn't realize how damaging that was to the overall until I went back to college like 2 years ago during the pandemic. And I was
It
like,
adds
geez,
up. It adds up.
woo, that put a dent in it for me. But I did idle, and I just set little goals for myself. And I got to number 4. And I just remember I was realistic with myself. And I told myself, like, if you go home this week, you beat out 74,000 people. Like that's a feat in itself. And I'm just honestly, I'm happy that I never compromised who I was. I never compromised my values. I had people trying to objectify me and make me wear certain things. I argue with people like I'm not wearing that. They tried to mess with my head several times about usually clothes, and like they would change up songs on me. I was learning 3 to 4 songs per week, and they were cuts of the songs, which is actually kind of more confusing than just learning the album cut of a song. But yeah. And then after I did all the idol stuff, like I did Master Chef, I did Blind Date, which is hilarious. My blind date looked like McLovin. It was, oh my God, it was great. But yeah, I don't know how I got on Master Chef, and I got into like the top 43-ish or something. And I'm a decent cook, but not with people who own restaurants surrounding me. But what else? I mean, yeah.
Well, the thing that I heard in there is it sounds like you went to The Voice and you felt like you had arrived, and that got shattered. And you went to Idol and you trusted the process and you went through the steps, and it was a completely different Jessica that went through those 2 processes.
Oh, yeah.
It was because I remembered how bad it hurt to have all my hopes high and then have it all ripped out from under me. One thing I've learned is anything that you have planned, you should probably plan fairly loosely. And you can do the goal setting and you can be realistic with yourself, but always anticipate change and never be afraid of change. Because one thing I did learn from that idol and voice thing is that not making it on The Voice was actually a blessing in disguise, even though it actually crushed me. Because if I had been aired on that, I would have been under a reality contract hold, and I would have never been able to audition for Idol the next year because it was too close to whatever the limit was in the dates and stuff. But I remember that because I had a lawyer look at the contracts for me, and The Voice wanted my entire BMI catalog. And looking back, I'm like, no, this is mine. I'm not going to sign that away to you.
Wow. That takes some audacity. Holy shit. Okay.
Well, you learn when you.
Let me ask you a question. Have you always wanted to be a musician? Was this something that you had always wanted? Because you said you were very creative when you were young. So what did that include in that creativity, and what made you choose this route?
Well, like I said, I was always very artsy fartsy. I drew monsters I made up in my brain. I wrote stories. I always tried to write songs, and they would end up being really long poems. I actually took a lot of literature and analytical classes in mostly high school, and I took college English and lit in high school. But I realized that I love analyzing poetry a lot, and I could pull parts apart and reflect them to, like, biblical references. What my database in my brain is stupid because I read so much as a kid, and because I didn't have any fucking friends. Like, I didn't have anything to do.
Well, you're both friends back then, right?
Yeah. And like, I love the fantasy and sci-fi and stuff like that. And of course, now I'm like into self-help and all that because I'm a psychology person, and I like history. I literally like everything, but I was very fascinated by like William Blake, who one of the poets and artists of his day, who apparently could talk to angels. He's actually really cool. You should look him up when you get bored one day. But he also had the songs of innocence and the songs of experience. And when you read the songs of innocence, it applies to like the childishness and the purity and naivety of being a child. And everything's very positive. Everything's bright and beautiful. But then those songs of experience are significantly more melancholy, more of a Debbie Downer, you might say, because it's losing that childlike innocence. So I was always fascinated by that kind of stuff. And this is like my teen years that I'm reading this very advanced, mature material that requires a lot of thought. And I wrote papers on it. And then I also read comics. Like, I love comic book art. I would draw Wolverine and stuff like that. And I love dragons. I draw dragons. I was just a freaking nerd, really. And people picked on me for that. And then I would go home and I'd play video games, and I would program the Game Shark so that I would be in God mode and never die. And I was like, it's not cheating, it's strategy. So that's how I all the time. It is, it's strategy. That's how you get by. That's how you get by in life too.
Yeah. Oh, we're not laughing at your assessment. We're laughing at the way you said it. Yeah.
Oh no, you're good. I definitely know that I'm a little quirky, but
have you met Carol?
Not till today. No, but always random. I wrote poetry. I started playing violin. I'm classically trained, so I learned how to read music. I was in choir, and when I moved to Alabama, they didn't really have the funding for music programs like they did when I was in New England. I lived in Rhode Island, and this is where I took all the orchestra and stuff. But I continued playing violin when I moved down here, and I remember I got into a symphony orchestra in Montgomery, and I worked my way from the back to first chair. I was second to last chair, and I worked my ass off, and I got the call to be in first chair, and I started crying. And then I started telling my mom, like, hey, I really want to play guitar because I want to figure out how to write songs. And I had the music theory, and I can hear stuff without knowing the theory, but I had done the orchestra camps. I had taken, I even took a few college courses in theory and in music in general. But my mom stopped at Bailey Brothers in Montgomery, and we got my first guitar on the way back from symphony practice one day. And I immediately started just trying to play. And I started learning all the chords through some of my favorite songs, and I just started memorizing them. And I had always been musical too, but I didn't have a guitar to play along and sing. I did karaoke for a long time, which I know is cheesy, but it was my starting point. And like, I sang in public at a Catholic school in Florida, and I'm not Catholic. It was rough. And
you have to take a holy water bath every week.
Well, I felt like they didn't want me there because I wasn't Catholic, but I had gotten pulled out of all the other schools because people would threaten me and push me around and like start rumors, and it was pretty cruel. I mean, kids are mean. And my parents, the last resort was to put me in this private Catholic school. And I'll never forget, we went to mass, and I didn't understand the dogma of Catholicism versus all the other religions. And I was like, well, I want the grape juice too. And I want the little cracker thing. And they're like, well, you're not Catholic, you can't have this. I was like, what the hell, man? This isn't all right. This is shitty. I want the cracker and the grape juice. And so everyone got it except me, which just further alienates me, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I feel like I've embraced it. And my creativity and learning how to focusing on teaching myself new skills and then honing the ones I already had as far as music and art, that just kind of became my safe place, I think. And it's very therapeutic. And I would write these really long Stairway to Heaven like songs that were more poetic than they were musical. And I was always frustrated because it wouldn't click. And then one day I wrote a song, and I remember I had my eureka moment, and I was like, holy shit, I just wrote a song, an actual song that doesn't suck. That's not 12 minutes long.
You see,
hey, Jessica, are you a sight reader for music, or do you do it by ear?
I can do both. When I did sight reading, that's more of like a violin thing. So if I saw it and someone said, sing that, I'd be like, I don't know. But I don't know how to sight read it and know what note that is. I'm not Charlie Puth, but I would say relative pitch, and I can remember songs and I can remember what key they're in. But if I start trying to sing it from memory, I might be a half step off. So I don't have absolute pitch by any means. Like, you can't go and say that's an A. I'm not like that.
You mentioned in there the self-proclaimed alien, right? Self-identifies as an alien. And it's interesting that it's not until we really accept who we are with all of our weird shit that we finally start to excel.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that really came to fruition for me, and I realized that, you know what, it's okay to be as different as you are. The only reason you feel weird is because the majority isn't like you, and that's okay. It doesn't really mean you're weird. It just means you're different and you're in a certain place. There was something I saw the other day that's like, you can go somewhere and water will be $1, or you can go somewhere and it'll be $2, or you can go to the airport and it's like $25 for fucking Fiji. And it's not about the actual value of the object. It's about where you're at. So maybe if you're feeling cheap and shitty, you might be in the wrong place. And I also think that travel and seeing different cultures and subcultures has helped me with understanding and being okay with my little eccentricities. So I think that everyone needs to travel and get out. But that's the other thing, is like, the reason I got bullied so heavily here maybe is because I moved around a whole lot, but none of these kids did. Like, these are kids who were born and raised, and they live next to mom and dad now, and they teach at the same school we grew up going to, and they've never left Alabama. And that's okay.
That's forever, right? I mean, they had their cliques. They had the people they were comfortable with. They were never put in a situation where it was uncomfortable, where they would have to make new friends. So
they never have to get out the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
They never had to get off.
Yeah.
Their hamster wheel, they're like, you guys see that? Look at that shit. I've never seen that before. I'm with you. I went to 12 different schools. I moved 36 times before graduating high school. Fucking weirdo right here. You know?
Well, then you definitely get it, because you met a ton of people in a very critical developmental stage of your life.
Yeah. A lot of assholes.
A lot of assholes, yeah. But also, I think that's good, because you figure out how you don't want to be.
Absolutely.
Like the way kids made me feel growing up, I would never want to make someone feel that way. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be anything like you, because you fucking suck.
Yeah. Well, and if anything, I would think too. And my dad was an engineer, and he would have contracts, so we would move as well. At the end of the day, you had to get used to and adapt to being in different places all the time. Plus, the fact I come from a different culture, my family, I was a first generation. So everybody in my family spoke a different language. You don't think that people made fun of me? I came to school with different food. They made fun of me. Like, I was not a normal person. So, dealing with those issues, I think growing up, you get a thick skin. You kind of learn to be a duck. Let it roll off your back. Like, fuck it,
Yeah, chuck it in the fuck it bucket. I like that.
Woo! Say that 5 times fast.
I will. I definitely will. So Julie, I messaged Julie saying you were coming on today, and I was happy. And she told me, he's like, you should try to get her to sing. I'm like, I can't put an artist on the spot like that who hasn't had time to warm up, isn't in the sound booth. I was like, I definitely can't do that. I'm like, I'm definitely an asshole, but I can't do that. That's just too far.
Yeah. You should like my guitar. So I flew back, so it's probably way out of tune from the airplane, but it's upstairs. I mean, I've got the sniffles, but I mean, you can pause the recording, right?
No, we're gonna watch you walk upstairs and come back downstairs. What was we're not gonna have you do that. What was your favorite karaoke song while you were getting started?
Oh dang.
Because mine is Baby Got Back. I get it every time. I did that in Texas when Carol was there. Yeah.
You did.
I did.
That's fantastic. No, I sang a lot of 90s country growing up, because that's what I was just born and raised on, that and rock and roll. So like, There Is No Arizona by Jamie O'Neill, Faith Hill stuff. What did she do? She like Take Another Piece of My Heart, the Janis Joplin song.
Yeah. That
kind of and then as I got a little older, before I learned guitar and could accompany myself, I would sing And I still do if I go to a karaoke bar and I'm drinking with friends. I'll sing Carrie Underwood. I'll do Undo It. All the angsty, I'm gonna fuck up your car stuff. Yeah.
That was my daughter's favorite song when she was like 2 or 3. She would belt out all of that shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
She's
That's
like 3,
great.
all squeaking. She's like,
Oh.
I done my keys in. It's hilarious. Yeah, she rocked it though.
Yeah, and like Before He Cheats, that was my jam. But
Yeah.
I also Britney Spears Toxic and Shakira Whenever Wherever. I love that. I had that whole service album and I loved it, every bit of it.
Yeah, a huge fan of both of those gals. Did you see? Oh my god, what is that group? What is that name of that group? They do metal. They take pop songs and they turn it into metal songs. Have you heard this?
Is it Our Last Night?
Oh, it's killing me right now. But they do like Baby One More Time, but they're dressed up like Deadpool and Wolverine and it's all metal.
What?
Yes. Oh
You're
my
gonna
god.
have to
Carol, ask her some questions. I gotta Google this. I gotta know this answer.
Oh my God, he's so circled. Hey, so I wanted to talk to you about and you kind of breezed by it with Asperger's. So my son was diagnosed with high functioning Asperger's, and I remember him being very introverted, but he would do these like complex, like 3D puzzles in like the so I put them in part-time daycare because I needed a break. You know, I was basically my husband at the time traveled almost 90% of the year. And so I was kind of like, I got to get like housework done. So as he reached, I think it was like, he was 5 or 6 years old. No, maybe 4. We put him in part-time. Right. And he was just really awkward with people and he couldn't talk to them and he would lash out instead of like using his words to communicate. But you would find him for hours just, and it'd be quiet. And he would be putting together these like intricate 3D puzzles. And the school was telling me he can take him home. He's the only one that can figure them out. Right. And it was, so he was so intellectual in that way. Just in a social aspect, he was incapable of just communication, getting along with people, didn't understand why people reacted different ways because he just wasn't in tune with like body language, and he was highly sensitive to feel, right? So like if there was something scratchy, it you couldn't have it, like it would bother him. And he was very highly emotional, so he would start crying. And this is the most hysterical part. So when you put them in part-time daycare, they have a little cubby that you can bring clothes for them to put stuff in, you know, like extra clothes. Well, I would get phone calls like, hey, you need to bring me more shirts. And I'm like, what's he doing to his shirts? And he's like, well, when he cries, he gets the shirt wet and then he wants to he can't have it wet. So he needs to have a dry shirt. And so I'm like, shit, man, I'm like bringing 3, 4, 5 shirts, you know, for them to do this. Eventually one of the girls there, like a teacher's aide, figures it out. It only bothers him when he sees it. Right. So every time he'd cry, she would rotate his shirt. He wouldn't see it. So it wouldn't bother him. Right. It was fucking hysterical and brilliant at the same time. But that's, I think it's kind of indicative of kids that have Asperger's, is these little idiosyncrasies that, you know, you just got to kind of figure out so you can work around it with them. But now he's like an adult and he's much more, I think, adaptive to all the situations now. But I think maturity does something for that, right?
Yeah. So as you get older, and this is actually how I became diagnosed, and my degree is in psychology. So I started studying autism specifically in one of my classes for behavioral analysis. And I started noticing, I was like, I had imposter syndrome. I was like, that sounds like me, but nah. And I got the attention. But like you said, when he was younger, he had these things. And I realized in hindsight that I did those things too. But as an autistic person, you learn how to do what's called masking. And so that can be a social skill. A skill overall, but also includes your social interactions with people that you learn And so, like you said, he's better, he's more adaptive. It's probably literally because he knows how to make himself act to be more normal
Yep.
in public. And that actually is incredibly tiring. And that was exactly why I went to a psychologist, because I'm looking at going to graduate school. And I told her I need accommodations because sounds really piss me off. Like if someone's tapping and stuff, and I'm non-confrontational, so I'll stare at your hand and I'll really hope that you look at me and get my telepathy of please fucking stop doing that. But I scored very high on masking, and autistic women score higher on masking than normal men, normal women, and autistic men.
Oh,
So yeah, women overcompensate incredibly highly. I'm not sure if that also includes like culturally, because I'm sure it's probably a different range in different countries for different reasons, because of like social roles and expectations and bias and whatever. But yeah, it sounds like he learned how to mask and function as a normal person.
right.
And it's like I'll play my shows and I'll talk to people, and like eye contact is weird as shit for me. I'm like, why do we do that? People shake hands. I'm like, thing you could ever do is shake someone's hand. And then I immediately use hand sanitizer. Like stuff freaks me out. I don't like people hugging me and touching me, but I've had to do the little one arm hug. But yeah, I realized I was pretending to be normal pretty much all my life. And I looked back when I was talking to my psychologist, like I used to sing Christmas songs out loud on the bus when I was a little kid. And people would say, that girl's weird, or why are you doing that, or stop. And I would be criticized for it. And I'm like, what's wrong with that? And I look back and I see all these behaviors and things that I did that I thought, what's wrong with that? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not socially, I guess, acceptable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned how to pretend. And pretty much every time I go out, I'm pretending to be as normal as I can. And then when I get home, like it sounds like he did the solitary activity a lot. That was also me. Like I had an imaginary friend. I remember very vividly my imaginary friend, and I read all the time. I challenged myself. Reading was a game for me because they did the AR tests and stuff. So I just tried to be better than everyone else because I thought it was funny. And then I would make like little models. It was an anime show called Zoids. And I would make the little models, and some of them were robotic. And I actually, when I lived in Rhode Island, I joined a robotics club, and we built robots out of Legos, and we could program it with a thing on the computer and tell it what to do. And that was so fun for me. So I think those kinds of activities really helped a lot. And even to this day, I enjoy being alone. I look forward to my alone time. And it's not that I don't like people. It's just that like people make me tired.
Yeah. Yeah. They drain you, right?
Very tired.
Yeah. I love alone time. I love being
yeah.
able to think and be in my space and be creative. And, so my boyfriend is Canadian, and we were just talking about this on the other show. So we don't really spend much time together. And people always ask me, long distance relationship, how does that work? And I said, it works remarkably well. He has
Mhm.
his life, I have my life. We're extremely busy. I run multiple companies. He runs companies as well. So when we do get together, we try to make that time quality time. And I got used to being alone. I mean, I was raising two kids when my, now ex-husband obviously was, traveling all the time. So I got used to being alone. I like being alone. I like myself, most people I can't stand. So I'd rather be with someone.
I feel that.
The problem with you is you're you. Get away from me. It's not that you do bad things, it's that you're a bad person. Get the fuck out.
Well, yeah, go on, Travis.
Not you
Seriously.
two. I'm talking about our fans or somebody. I don't know. See, I'm the opposite. Like, I can have alone time, and that's fine. I need a little bit of time, but like this right now, what we're engaging and doing, man, through the roof. This is great for me.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a people person.
You should see me in public. Fucking hold on to your butts. Like, it's nuts.
Oh. Yeah, I can't afford my ass. So
if you need a hype man like on your travels and you want someone to go like be in the crowd, like I can be that person for you.
So an extrovert. Yeah, see, I'm super introverted. It's very hard for me to be like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
You know,
And
all
so,
the wealthiest people are extremely introverted.
How can
well,
you be introvert if you perform?
it's different.
Is it now?
Yep, it's absolutely different. Performing is my happy place, and it's also it's different in that I can be on stage and I can act like an asshole. I can kind of say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want and I can be myself and people like it because that's my brand. It's who I am. It's not like I'm just going around and I can come off as an asshole because I'm a little bit abrasive and whatever. It's just me. And I have to be mindful of that because I also don't do small talk and I don't have to do any of that when I'm on stage. I can just talk about my song, play my song, or lately I just play music. I don't even talk that much anymore. I'm just like, this is what I'm good at and this is what I like and I'm just going to sing and this is my happy place. That's it. Totally different.
Yeah.
Trying to impress anybody. Honestly, I'm at a point in my life I'm like, if you don't like it, I don't care. You can leave, go somewhere else.
If only you had the option to get the hell out of here, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that you're willing to share and be vulnerable and open, and that's really what this is about. Because so many people see the persona of you out there on social media or anyone else, and they're like, "Oh, they're just lucky," or "How did they figure that out?" or whatever. Like, there's no real backstory. Most interviews that you end up doing, they don't care about you. They say, "What are you doing? What's your big thing? What have you done for me lately?" Maybe a
Yeah.
human interest thing, and then they just kind of move on. It's like, what can you do for me? And it's just too much. But what I can do for you is I can Google what metal band it is. It's Heavy Metal Heroes that does the covers for pop music. So we got like
Okay.
American Woman, It's Gonna Be May, Baby One More Time. And I
All
fucking
right.
love all of them. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to check it out. I love heavy metal. I love rock and roll. So
And you love Marvel because they're dressed up as Spider-Man and I think there's a Batman too, Deadpool, Wolverine. It's a lot of
How
fun.
many? Yeah.
I have a Moon Knight comic in front of me. So
Say that again.
I have a Moon Knight comic book right here. Like, see,
Yeah, he finally got his own little series, Moon Knight. Yeah.
Season 2. I want a season 2 so bad.
Are they gonna do it? Have they
I
decided?
hope because the taxi driver at the end. That's all I'm saying. Oh my gosh, I need more.
So what kind of genres of music then do you typically sing? Mostly country or rock and roll or?
So I did the country thing for a while, and that was where I was at in my life. My last album a couple years ago, that's definitely country. It was produced in that way. And then I ended up parting ways with that manager, and he has stolen my copyright of all of my songs. And I'm in the process of fighting for my copyrights of my songs that I sat on my floor in my apartment in Houston, Texas, while I had a real job for a year. And he will not give them back. He is an asshole. And
God.
Where does he live? No reason.
he lives in California.
Oh, I'm flying out there this weekend.
Yeah, he actually is. For real, he's flying out this weekend. He's going to be at
Julie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at Julie's house doing Julie things.
She's a sweet person. And so I did the country.
Why do I hear so many horror stories about this in the music industry? Is these fucking assholes?
There's tons of them.
The 2 words, instant gratification. So instead of working with an artist and having a nurturing work relationship where you really genuinely have that person's best interests at heart, you want them to grow as an artist and as a person, you want both of you to become better in the long run. Instead of doing that and then overall making more money over a longer period of time, they they will stab you in the fucking back the first chance they get for $10. That is exactly what happened. I've not been paid like anything for anything. And he left me in a very damaged place financially because he bypassed paying me. So it's just been a shitstorm. It's a dumpster.
That's fucking horrible. And the
Almost,
entrepreneur, the
almost,
empathy in me goes out to you, and the entrepreneur in me is, how can we create that agency that operates the way it should operate?
Right.
there's always going to be assholes. So I think it's just like something I had to learn the hardest way possible. So I definitely did. And like I said, I'm still trying to get my songs back. And it used to really bother me, but now I'm just, I don't know if you ever watched Vikings, but when Floki was just floating on the sea and he had this urge to go find a new place, and he's like, I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what I'm doing, but the gods are going to guide me.
Yeah.
And then he ended up finding Iceland, and it was the best thing that ever happened to him. So I was like, you know, I am Floki on the sea right now, and I have no idea what's happening. I really don't. But sometimes you really just have to let go of control, because you don't really have it anyway. It's just when we think we have control, we're lying to ourselves.
Yep.
You really don't. And also, like, don't sweat the small stuff. And it's all small stuff. So, like, I'm not worried about it. I'm just hustling. Like I said, I'm applying to grad school. And if I get in, I get in. If I don't, I will apply again. I don't care. I'm not going away. And I'm always going to play music. I'm always going to do what I love. And that's really, I feel a lot better just having let go of all that stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
You got to surrender sometimes and just know that the universe has your back. You know, some of those, I always say to people, it's like God's rejection is your protection. Sometimes, you know, you're being rejected from something because there literally is something else coming your direction that it could be your goal, it could be your dream, it could be whatever it is, right? And
Yep.
you wouldn't have had the time or the energy to devote to it if you were still back here and holding on. So let it go. Fucking let it go and go with the flow.
Adversity equals growth. And
Yeah.
people are afraid of failure and of change. And so that's why they never leave, and they stay exactly where they are, because you have to fail to move forward, and you have to fail to move up. You have to bust your ass. It has to suck sometimes. And it was just like The Voice. I got kicked off, and it ripped my heart. It eviscerated me. It really did. It sucked. And I had no idea that Idol was about to happen. And that changed my life. That was amazing. It was so fun. I had such a good time.
Yeah. Well, one thing people need to learn is failure and change are inevitable. You cannot get away from it. So just lean into it.
Absolutely. What advice would you have for aspiring artists to help them, you know, A, keep the right mindset, and B, how to avoid getting screwed over by everyone in the industry?
Oh, Jessica?
I wonder if her phone died.
Oh, it froze.
It definitely froze. So,
Yeah.
Laura Lee, when you get this, we may need some fancy editing. Oh,
There we go. And she's back.
he's back.
I don't-
Look at that.
I don't know.
It's okay. It's all right. I blame Carol anyway. I was going to ask, or I did ask, but you were frozen, so I don't know if you heard it or not. What advice would you have for people struggling with the mindset? And then if people are getting into the industry, what advice would you give them to help, you know, prevent them from being screwed over by everybody?
Read your contracts, get a lawyer. It's the most expensive best friend you'll ever have, but they're worth every penny. Remember why you started, especially if you start with pretty much nothing and you're just hustling. And like, I promise you, it's not fame you want. That's not it. So, I mean, I think it's just really important to remember why you do what you do and why you play music. And like I'm reminded all the time that I do it because I meet amazing people who it's changed their lives. And it makes me so glad I didn't quit when just everything sucked.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't quit just because everything sucks. You heard it here
Yeah.
first.
Who you are. Don't compromise your values, because there are going to be a lot of people who tell you what they think you should be, how you should be, what you should look like, what you should wear. And there's always going to be haters who are like, I had someone bitch about my fingernail polish because I play guitar, so it shredded it off on one hand. And someone's like, she's so trashy. And I was like, fuck you, first of all, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
So
how I don't pretend to understand people out in the on their hamster wheels in whatever world they're in.
It's always on the internet too. So you're either going to become what other people want you to be and lose yourself in the process and then wonder why you feel so empty later. Or you're going to stay true to yourself and do what you love for the reason why you love it. And you'll be a lot happier. You'll be a lot more fulfilled, because I know a lot of people who have a lot of money and they're empty. They're unhappy and they don't know why. I'd rather have $3 and know who I am and do what I love than have $3 billion and not have any of those other things.
Yeah. Well, they went and conformed to what other people thought they should be. So
and it's easy.
themselves lost. They don't even know who they are at that point. That's why they feel so empty. You know, if you remain authentic and genuine to yourself, fucking hell, you'll be happy. It doesn't matter whether you have $1 or you have $1 million. You'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see this all the time. This is the first time we've spoke, Jessica. I was retired from the Navy in February as a naval officer, and so many of my colleagues, my predecessors, when they retire, they really onboarded the military as their identity. Yep. And luckily, I was a weirdo in the military, so I never really identified with those people, so I didn't worry about that. But going through that transition and going through that big change, and having that piece of your identity taken away in whatever capacity, like if you don't know who you are, you're going to get crushed.
Yeah,
you're absolutely going to get crushed. If you know who you are, like we just talked to Joel Cleland, he knew who he was. He lost his he's no longer the CEO of Centric, but because he knows who he is, it had an effect, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't as devastating as it could have been. It wasn't like being the CEO was his identity. He knew who he was. He knew what he stood for. And when you have that coming from inside of you, then the external things that happen are just news headlines, and they may or may not mean anything.
Well, it boils down to self-worth. You know, you got to have that self-worth. And if you don't have that, how do you expect other people to see that in you?
Yep. Yeah. It's the same. How can you love someone else if you don't love yourself at all? And how can you make someone else happy, which isn't your job, but that's a different subject, if you're not happy with yourself? So it all starts with you and getting over your ego. And I think a lot of people, that's probably the hardest part, is the ego.
Yeah, no, very true. Now, I have to ask, what's a little known fact about you?
I mean, other than the one she already told us?
No, but like, we all have like little things that people don't necessarily know about us, but when they hear it, they're like, fucking, I totally did not expect that. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think. I know that when I talk, I tend to talk a lot. So there's like so much information there, I guess.
That's great for podcasting. Let me tell you, this is wonderful.
I believe in, everyone knows I believe in aliens. That's not a little known fact. I think like ghosts and stuff are real. And
that's not weird. I believe in all that stuff too.
I'm fascinated by, what else is there. And there's like this cool thing called thin places in the world where that veil between us and the other frequencies is very thin and people see shit all the time. Like that. If I could have like spooky, ghosty, unsolved mysteries type of show, I would totally fucking do it. Like Bigfoot is out there. Yetis, I think, are just like ice Bigfoots. Like, oh, it's so cool. I love it so much.
I love all
I'm
that supernatural stuff.
yeah.
That's totally my jam. So like, I don't know. You found out from David Carter
Yeah.
that I read cards, and that's like totally a happy place for me. I love reading cards. I read for people all the time I care about.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
I feel like a dagger because you've never read cards for me. Like, oh, I do it all the time to people I love and care about. And I'm just like,
But
oh,
we were open
just
to
twist
it
it
and
in.
receptive. You haven't asked me. If you ask me, I do it for you. I don't openly invite myself to do that because it's a different
Oh,
energy.
oh, okay.
You have to be receptive of it for me to do it because I have to be able to connect to your energy to do it.
Mm.
I
The
want you
last
to do it.
time, the last time I
Gosh.
was around anyone that had their cards read, it was during the week of what the hell do you call it? What's the big festival in New Orleans?
Jazz?
Mardi Gras.
Oh,
Mardi Gras.
oh.
We're down. So the Navy won't let you travel to a place like New Orleans during Mardi Gras, but they let you go before Mardi Gras. And then, our airplanes broke. We had to stay. So
Oh, crap.
we're out in town. We're in the French Quarter. I'm with a Marine who's like 6'5", completely trashed. And one of the other gals in the squadron. And you're trying to corral, because she's smaller than I am. We're trying to like corral this guy towards a cab. And we walked through one of the many graveyards in New Orleans, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, they're doing readings. There's this gal over here doing readings. A, it wasn't a gal. B, it was like
Oh.
3:30 in the morning, and he's sitting down. He's all interested. He's like, "Yeah, tell me about this. Oh, what are the cards?" Like he's like fully into it. He's completely drunk, completely off his rocker drunk, and we basically got down to, well, you have two choices. You have two paths, and I swear he repeated that like 30 times. He's like, yeah, but what are the paths? It's like, oh, I can't see the paths. You have to be the one that sees the paths. And it just was like this endless loop until I finally called a cab, got him in there, got him in the cab, thanked the person, and then went back to the base down in JRB, New Orleans.
Oh my
That's
God.
great,
That's
though.
the only
That sounds.
experience I've had with a tarot card reader. I don't know.
Mine's,
Oh.
yeah, see, but mine's more energy. I use,
Mm.
so I got to tap into your energy. And a lot of times, if you're going through struggles and stuff, it shows up. And
Mm.
kind of fucking crazy because I've done cold reads for people that have been like, oh, well, you try one. I'm like, yeah. And I'll send it to them. They're like, give me a day. And then we'll get on the phone. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, it makes no sense to me because I don't know anything about you really.
Mhm.
So this has got to pertain to some situation you're going through or will be going through or you're presently going through, right? Past, present, or future, right?
Right.
And it's really interesting because I'll do that and then I'll do an overall like clarity card over the three. And sometimes people will just come to me and say, I have a problem or a situation, and I'll find out what like the contributing factors are and what the overall situation comes out in the read. So there's like all different ways of doing it. It just depends on the person, but you have to be receptive because if I can't tap in, it's not going to be accurate.
Yeah.
You never asked me. So if you never asked me, I don't offer it.
That's true. I have never asked.
Exactly. And Reggie asked me from the very beginning, and David asked me too. So I
love Reggie and David. They're great.
Yeah.
I talked to Reggie this weekend. He's fantastic.
Yeah. They're good guys. Ex-NFL players, Jessica, if you so Reggie Walker used to play with, was it the Cardinals?
Both Reggie and David Carter played for the Cardinals. They all played for a couple other teams, but they met on the Cardinals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were guests on our show, and they had a great time, and we hung out in St. Louis, and that was a blast. And oh my god, every time I get to hang out and talk to them guys, I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, little known facts about you. That's why I was asking, because people don't know. There's like little quirky things that they don't know about you, and then sometimes they're like, "Oh, I could totally see that," or other times like, "Fucking did not see that one coming."
Yeah. I mean, one time I did a ghost hunt and I slept overnight in a haunted hospital.
Fucking hell, I could not do that.
What hospital? Where was it at?
Oh,
South Pittsburgh Hospital. I think that's the name of it. It's just over the Tennessee line. And I did a ghost hunt, and we had all the EMF shit, and like, oh man, there was.
I could not do that. Like I would be anxiety ridden the whole night at every goddamn sound. Because if you do energy work, you can fucking feel things, and it's not cool. It's fucking not cool.
So some people do the energy and they feel it, and some people see stuff, and I'm the one who sees stuff.
Oh, I feel it. It's like fingers down a chalkboard, like creepy fucking shit, man.
Yeah, there was one whole hall dedicated to a psych ward, and that had changed afterward, but there had been people who passed away, obviously. And on the opposite end, which for whatever ungodly reason was like a nursery. So, right? Why would they put that on the same floor? I don't know. But there was a little boy, I want to say his name was Timmy or something like that. But he was playing outside, and he found what he thought was worms, and he showed his mom. They were baby copperheads. They bit him. And obviously, like, baby snakes don't know the venom dosage at all. And so he ended up
set the fangs to stun Jimmy. I don't know what stun is. Here's a full load. Yeah.
And that's like the rattlesnake babies do that too, because they don't know. And so he passed away in there. And we were in the hallway, and I had my back against the wall because I don't want my back open to anything. I'm just like, And there was a shadow of a little boy next to me, and I looked down and I said, "Oh, fuck no.
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 Fuck, no, fucking I'm out. Fuck this."
Well, I kept my chill because I registered, and I was like, that's the boy. And like, I don't do like the energy as much, like as you probably feel it, but like I can tell if it's bad. You can really tell. And then one of the ladies,
chills. Sorry, it's like giving me the fucking chills.
One of the
right now, isn't it?
We had doors open, like not a lot, not like wide open, but she closed all the doors in the hallway because she wanted us to leave her alone. And she had a friend there, and this was a psych ward, so it wasn't a draft. There are no windows in the psych ward because it's a hazard. So it was nothing like that. There was no AC on. There was no air running. There was no possible explanation for why all those doors, aside from she closed them. So, but then, oh no, so we went in the basement, and there was an office off to the side where this guy used to be, I guess I don't know what his title was, but he basically ran the entire hospital. So he had like all his office space, his files, and his desk and stuff was in there. And we were off toward where maintenance used to hang out. And there was a little table in the middle. So we all sat there. And there was a man named James who used to run maintenance. And we had this EMF reader thing that when things, if something triggered the energy, it would light up. And based on how close it was, it would have a certain color and it would go crazy. So the first thing I noticed, and I could tell there was someone in there, but I couldn't see it. And so somebody walked by, and the thing went crazy. And it was like red, which meant he basically touched it. And then it faded to green real quick, and he walked off. And as he passed by, I smelled his body odor. And I was like, whoa. But he was chill and he was nice. And you could tell, like, I didn't feel threatened by him. And then one of the guys who was guiding the ghost thing, he was telling us about the man who used to run it, who had his office off to the side. And he was a very bad man, very crooked man. He was into child pornography and that kind of stuff. And they didn't find a lot of it until after he had passed away. He died in his office. I think they found like pills and stuff, so he might have OD'd, but don't quote me on this. I don't remember. And all of a sudden, as this guy's telling us the story, it sounds like a cinder block has fallen from the ceiling and it smashed a lamp and the light fixture is swinging back and forth. And I sat there and I remember I was like, I got up and I said, I'm going to go upstairs and go to bed now. And so I went and I laid in my bed and I said a prayer and I felt safe and I felt protected and I went to bed and I was fine. But there are stories of people who taunted, like he has thrown stuff at people. Yeah, he damages stuff. He's like straight up poltergeist, the angry one. But you can tell he's bad. But I can't believe I slept like a baby. I really did.
Well, you hear horror stories about, I don't know if you ever saw like Ghost Hunters or any of those guys, but there are horror stories of them attaching themselves to people and they go home with you, and it's like, who the fuck pays for it, number one, subjects themselves to that shit, and then brings back a fucking entity with them that they have to cope with? Like, no, thank you. I'm good. I'll just hang out over here.
Where's that on the scale of single loneliness? Like, oh, I could go out for dinner. I just don't want to see people. Where can I get an entity to follow me home? That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, crap. But I think, obviously, I believe there are all different kinds. I think that, the spirit lives on after we pass away, but I do think it's something that we can't really fathom or understand. Like, I don't think when we pass away, our soul is a boy or a girl or anything. I think that's irrelevant. But I think it's an energy thing. And I think that certain things can attach in different ways and come off as like specters and replays and things like that aren't really that person. They're just like an energy that's left behind. But then, like you were talking about, is the things, entities. And those are the ones that fuck with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
They don't close a session.
Yes.
Those aren't people.
Yeah.
Those are bad. Those are things you don't fuck with. And I actually knew a guy who had a session, didn't close it, and a straight up demon followed him around for 10 years. And it was like a toxic voice sitting chattering in his ear all the time. He wasn't mentally ill, schizophrenia, wasn't a disembodied voice, nothing like that. Like, that was very real for him. And I've lost touch with him since, but he was terrified all the time.
Like, service public announcement, don't fuck with shit you don't understand.
That you never ever Ouija board. There are people who casually use, they do all this crazy stuff with them. I would not. Nope.
No, you are just tempting fate when you do shit like that. Like, walk away, man, walk away, because that stuff is creepy, and you see people completely alienate themselves, become recluses because of it. And it's just like, why did you do that? Fuck, you were fine before, you had a great life, and then you go do something stupid, and now it ruins your life.
I think there's better ways to learn about what you're curious about than sticking your hand in some hole that you don't know what kind of hole's on the other side.
Right.
Like, I'm fascinated.
You can say sticking your hand in any hole.
Yeah.
Carol was all worded out about the ghost stories. I'm like, stick my hand somewhere. I'm like, no. Nope. No, thank you. I watch Supernatural, man. Just pour a salt ring. I'm good. But like putting your hand somewhere weird? No, not into that stuff.
Nah. No, I'm fascinated by reading about, have you heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren?
No.
So if you ever saw The Conjuring, that's based on a true story.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I saw that. They showed actual previews of what they went through, like the old films of and she passed away. It was a couple of years ago now, but Ed passed away a while ago. But they have always been very interesting to me, and they were basically demonologists, and they had that whole museum. I think it was their house was like the museum of all the cursed objects, but they understood how to kind of stay detached from it. It's cool to read about. Have you ever seen, and we are so going down like a weird vein here, but I love it.
Yeah, that's what makes it so cool.
You're welcome.
Have you seen that show? I think it's on Discovery. It's called Evil Things. Oh my God, fucking creepy. This is why I don't go antiquing, because
my wife goes like antiquing like every weekend.
No, I'm so sorry. Don't tell your wife this then.
Oh, I'm gonna tell her. I'm gonna have her come in right now.
Oh fuck. Okay, so the show is basically about people going and buying things at these stores. You know, they sell them, they buy them. It could be antiques, it could be whatever, right? But they're objects, and what astonishes me is there's entities that can be attached to objects. And then when you take those entities home, or that object home, you're bringing that entity into your home willingly.
Yep.
Right. And so then they wreak havoc in your home with individuals, with the whole dynamic of the family. I mean, it's fucking crazy, the shit that people bought unknowingly and then brought it like demons and entities into the home that poisoned the entire household. It's fucked up.
Have you heard of Robert the doll?
No.
Okay, you just made me think of it. So he used to belong to a boy. I think he named him after himself. And they lived in the artist house in Key West, Florida. And he was given this doll by the original people who made like the first teddy bear. It's the same company. And he has like mohair or whatever, and he's basically filled with wood shavings or something. Don't quote me. But the parents would catch the boy talking to the doll, and they thought he was just, hanging out with his imaginary friend type thing.
Yeah.
And then stuff started moving. The doll started being displaced, and they were like, what the fuck? And yeah. And it was really creepy stuff started happening. Things would break, things would go missing. And the little boy, there's a quote that's associated with him. It's quote, Robert did it. And they even use that in the marketing now. So Robert, it's actually really cool because as long as you're not shitty to him, you're fine. Nothing bad happens. I went to see the doll. And so the thing is, well, I prayed before I went in there. Don't worry.
I would be dousing myself with holy water, the whole fucking 9 yards.
Holy water. Jessica's setting up like a blind date with a cursed object.
But it's important to, I think, have respect for the things that you don't understand. And you can be curious, but not stick your hand in the hole,
Yeah. What's in there? I don't need to know.
Well, no. And I did my research before I went to see him and stuff. So I know you're supposed to ask him if you're going to take any pictures. So I'm in there and all these people who have like, I don't know what possesses people, pun intended, to insult that they have heard that there's a whole myth and folklore about that terrible things will happen to you if you do these things. So they go to see the thing and they do those things. And they would like insult Robert or say, like one guy, while I'm looking at all the apology letters that have been sent addressed to the doll, by the way. Yeah.
Geez.
They're all over. They have a whole run. He still receives letters. So I'm in there and I'm reading it. I did not take any pictures. I was like, I'm not opening Pandora's box today. I'm just going to look at it. So this kid and his sister came in. And I'm just standing there pretending not to really pay attention. And they're like, hey, I am so sorry for what my dad said the last time we were here. We were just joking and please forgive us. And they were just really apologetic because the dad had said he was going to like set the doll on fire and nothing was going to happen to him. And first of all, I was like, if you do that, you might just be an asshole in general. Because why would you talk like that to anything or anyone? So, but no, he's been known to a tremendous misfortune for anyone who's very rude to him or takes a picture without asking. And it's just really interesting. So if you want to look it up.
Well, I wrote it.
That sounds just like a Jeff Foxworthy knockoff. Like if you travel across the country to cuss out a doll, you might be an asshole.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and people are visiting, but I just thought it was pretty gnarly that while I was in there, people were coming in to apologize to the doll for terrible things like car accidents and stuff.
Holy shit.
They said if you could make, the bad stuff stop happening, please. We're very sorry. They apologized for the dad. I would have said, Dad, get your ass on a plane and apologize to this doll.
Yeah. Why are we doing this for you? And by the way, I doubt the doll would accept an apology from somebody else, considering it was the dad that said it.
We might let
Yeah.
the kids off the hook.
Well, I don't know. But I was curious because I was like, well, where is their dad? I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's you just things that you don't understand. Like my culture believes in so many things. Is Buddhist, and the other half, the missionaries made it to Taiwan somehow, and we got to be Presbyterian. So there's half of my family is Presbyterians, the other half right that are Buddhists. So it's a really interesting mix, right? But we believe in the afterlife. We believe in being reincarnated. There's a lot of things we believe, but there is a lot to be said about fortune tellers and the supernatural and what you believe in. And we have a ton of superstitions within our culture. I drive people insane. My boyfriend, I really am sorry, because the shit I say to him, where he'll say something and I'm like, we can't do that. Why? You cannot do it. And then I have to explain to him why, right? Because there's so many different things that can bring bad luck, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so overly superstitious because of my mother, right? And I abide by so many of the rules. My brother could give a fuck, but me, I'm like, no, And so I get it. There's things that you can't explain, but there's such a part of your life that you don't even question it. And I think just because you don't understand it, or you've never come across it before, doesn't mean that you should just sit there and thumb your nose up at it. Ask questions, be curious, because you might learn something. Who knows? My boyfriend's learning certain numbers are bad. The way a direction, your bed, where the head of the bed is and the foot of the bed is, matters. The direction of the front door matters. Like, where the window and the front door meet, that matters. And if there's a window right when you open your front door, there's ways of getting around it to keep the energy in the house. Because if there's a front door and let's say there's a slider that goes straight out, in our culture, that's like money in, money out. So you can never keep money within the home. And there's a bypassing that, right? And so there's all kinds of things that we do to offset it. If we buy a home like that, there's certain number of steps that can't be had in a home. There's certain numbers that fucking hell. Can you imagine being my real estate agent? Good luck.
I already am not interested in that in the slightest. So I don't know how your real estate agent put up with that kind of shit. What are you looking for? Like a 3-2? You want to view? I'm like, I can't have the front door directly to the back door and the wall going. It can't match. It's an energy thing, and also it can't be these 4 numbers.
Yeah. Oh,
who says yes to you for your real estate? Nobody.
I was actually easy, because they would just video things, like you have the 360s these days, and I would just go through the front door. I go, show me the front door. Literally, that's what I would say. Show me the house, show me the front door, and we'll decide if we need to stop there or not. It was hysterical. There's nothing wrong with this home. Oh, yes, there is.
I think that's really interesting. Like, actually, I'd like to connect with you and talk about that stuff and your tarot cards and all that after.
Fuck yes, Jessica. I would love it.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I like to learn. And honestly, I'm not very dogmatic. And I don't think that any one religion is just 100% true, because things have trickled down so much historically. But I think if you look across them, there are these weird common themes and weird common people. And I'm kind of at a point in my life where if I look at that like a whole, all of it is right. In a weird, just to be blunt without going down another rabbit hole.
No, for sure. But you got to ask yourself, like, my girlfriend's a diehard Christian, and she said to me, I only believe in one true God. And I go, but there can't be one true God if there's this many people in the world that believe in this many different religions. So, and every one of them says there's only one true God. Like, I don't understand how that can be. So why can't we be accepting of everybody's religion with the understanding that just because you believe this is your one true God, it doesn't mean the other ones don't exist.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at even like Gnosticism, which I believe is basically pre-Christianity, unless I'm getting it confused, but Christianity is pretty young, actually, if you look at everything overall. But it relates heavily to, I believe Gnosticism's the one with the demiurge, and that's basically like the bad guy. And there's all sorts of different things that crisscross into Christianity. But I have so many questions too. I think you should question everything. But like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the bunch of white guys, really? You think that's that's my perspective. I'm like, okay, I think there are great stories here, but also there's so much that they did not allow to be put into the Bible, like the book of Enoch, which is really interesting. It's all about the angels, it's all about the fall. And basically all the angels that fell here showed women how to be beautiful and seduce men and be lustful and whatever. And it worked on the angels, obviously. But
well, they
but
didn't
I
include
also,
the book, the gospel according to Judas either.
but they also showed us weapons and how to fight. And basically they pulled a Prometheus and gave us the fire. And the thing that I have to say is we have free will. So we used our decision-making skills or lack thereof to create our own wars with the tools that were given to us. But also I do believe that everything that is happening is what is supposed to happen, good or bad. And I do also think there's a collective consciousness, which is rooted in energy. And that's why, like, the law of manifestation, I think that's absolutely true. But it's also, shit does happen and it's not necessarily your specific energy, but there's a giant that is being affected by good and bad of the overall vibe of the world, to put it lightly.
But for manifestation, it's the law of attraction, also what you want. If you put it out there and you go, this is what I want, and this is how I want to do it, and this is how I want to help society, don't tell me that law of attraction isn't going to bring it to you. You put it out, it'll come. It's like a fucking boomerang.
You just have to trust it, and you can't really do a timeline because your timeline might not be the timeline it's on.
Fucking hell. This girl just said my line. Like, no shit. I say that to everybody. I've said it to Travis before. Just because it's not on your time doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just not on your timeline. Yep.
Yeah. And that's why I'm Floki and I'm just floating. I'm just like, all right, here I am. Let's go. I'm just trusting, and I just try not to be a shitty person, honestly. I think that's what it really is.
Good person. Yeah, be a good person, do good things, and do things for the greater good so that we can all benefit, right?
Yep, absolutely. That's how I feel.
Oh my God, we're so connecting after this. Fuck yeah.
Need to. I would love to.
Yeah.
So as we're getting ready to wrap it up today, Jessica, thanks for being our guest. Where can the people find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, all of my stuff is at Jess Meuse, and my last name is Meuse. Like, me use this, me use that. And never forget that. But
That's great.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything except my TikTok is verified, but all I do on TikTok is I'll do music here and there, but I mostly just shit post and do comment replies because it's funny. And then yeah, or you can Google me and you'll find it somewhere.
Well, if there's definitely one thing that I learned today, it's don't talk shit to demon dolls.
Don't ever do.
No.
Don't do it. First off, I can't afford to fly back down and apologize later, so that's definitely out of my wheelhouse there.
Those Key West flights are no joke, that's for sure. And I also would not want to be there right now.
No.
Yeah, no kidding. Was that Ian beating down their door right now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have been down to Key West like 5 times, but I never got into the Demon Dollhouse. Probably because if it was suggested, I would be like, I'm not putting my hand in that box.
No.
Well, just be nice. Just don't be a dick. It really comes down to not being a dick. A lot of things.
That's hard for me sometimes. Because I'm like, something will happen. I'll be like, really? That's the decision we're making today? No. Thanks again, Jessica, from Carol and myself. This has been an absolute blast. Connect with Jess at Jess Meuse. That's Meuse, whatever, .something. And we'll see you next time.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.